Another thing that I found interesting with Halloween is the idea of the anonymous killer, so to
Mm,
speak. In that
yeah.
there were apparently movies before that that had killers who you never really knew the name of. But I
Mhm.
think what's interesting about Michael Myers is that you know his name, you kind of know where he's been, but his personality is the mystery. It's like
Yeah.
you have no idea what really drives this behavior or what caused it or anything else, and it's all kind of like alluded to. And I mean, yeah, I did find it kind of funny that, Dr. Loomis calls him the evil, and it's kind of,
Mm.
it doesn't seem very professional, but
Well, and he's actually in the credits and stuff is called The Shape and everything.
yeah.
And so I think what that also addresses is how in the 80s there started becoming more awareness of this idea of serial killers, like kind of again
Mm,
psychopaths and stuff. Mindhunter is a great series for that. Like I don't know if you had a chance
mm.
to watch that.
Yeah, my wife watches it, but I haven't actually watched
Yeah,
it much, but
check it out, and you'll
mm,
see the interesting connection with it because up to that point, the FBI only really kind of like recognized the idea that like you had, either crimes of passion, crimes of greed, and stuff like that, and then that was really it. Like kind of to them it was like kind of black and white as to what were the motivations for killing and everything. Then they
mm,
realized like there were these killings that didn't fit that pattern, and then next thing they know they realized like holy crap, there are these people that like killed in serial. The idea of a serial killer was first came up because they started seeing this pattern. Like like they up to then they didn't really they saw that maybe somebody would go on a spree or this and that, but they still like wrote it off as like oh that person's just crazy or whatever. But they didn't really kind of identify or study it until like around the late 70s, early 80s and stuff like that. So that was something that like kind of that they started seeing and recognizing like oh crap, there are like kind of these wolves if you are among us and stuff.
mm,
And that was like I think another influence was like kind of recognizing that like there is something kind of a new kind of horror if you will, like kind of on top of like the supernatural was like kind of this and that's the thing about horror. It's like horror is addressing supernatural, and supernatural like we tend to think of it as like warlocks or magic and stuff, but I
mm.
think here we have something that like is hypernatural, like kind of beyond what's nature and stuff like that. And that was another definition of supernatural that kind of has developed with the Michael Myers story.
Yeah. The other, yeah, the other thing, yeah, we're talking about that is this. I don't know if it was the first movie to do this, but the idea that the killer comes back after receiving what should normally take a normal person down. I mean,
Right.
over the years, poor old Michael, in some respects, has been shot through the eye and shot several times. God knows how many lethal blows he's had to endure. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's
it's
another way. It's supernatural, because like
yeah,
it. He seems on the surface like a human being, just a regular man or like that, but he has
mm,
these supernatural or superhuman like kind of strength and like kind of his ability to kind of keep coming back and stuff. So that's like
mm,
kind of and then some one of the things that kind of happened after Halloween 2 and 3 and stuff. And we'll talk about that as well. But they started kind of having more connections to kind of like kind of something more supernatural sense of like witchcraft and this and that, and like kind of, and that was like kind of before the H2O, the 20th anniversary, where they just kind of like basically wiped out all that and like kind of started clean slate
uh,
and everything.
yeah, because obviously it's the more realistic, the more scary it is. But in
Yeah.
terms of it, in terms of a frame of history for people who maybe weren't there at the time, like you have Marvel superheroes now. I think
Mm,
your slashers were, they were the superheroes of the '80s almost because they had all these sort of
right.
amazing powers and killed people in lots of wild and wacky ways that you wanted to kind of see. I kind of think it's a similar sort of thing in a way,
Definitely.
in terms of the culture. Hey, times were crazy in the '80s. What can I say?